Sup everyone, welcome back to another video, and by the time you see this video, there's a good chance that Nilou's already out, so I don't know if you already went ahead and done what you needed to do, but I wish you guys the best of luck. Honestly, I do want to make these videos. It's mostly to answer questions and concerns from players. It's never to deter anyone from pulling a character. It's more so to give you more insight from somebody who has played through these characters, tested them on various different accounts, C0, like very low investment, C1 with R1, C4, C6, all the sorts, right? I have experiences because I have the platform to reach many people, and as you guys will see in the coming days, I will have an interview to somebody who has basically transitioned fully from a Eula main into a Nilou main for good reasons. So there are positives to this character. However, there are certain things you have to be careful about when playing Genshin Impact. Resources don't come easy. I'm sure I don't need to be the guy telling you that. It's very difficult to accumulate a large amount of Primo Gems, especially with people who have certain itches to press that summon, that gotcha button, right? It's like a slot machine. You just want to pull it regardless of whatever. And for the most part, people suffer because of it, right? People suffer. Months of work can go down because of an impulsive decision. And I'm here making these videos hoping that you don't end up being one of those people. Now, if that's what gets your blood flowing to the right places, be my guest, right? Keep rolling that slot machine. But today, we're talking about Nilou. We're talking about some of the things that people need to consider prior to going all in for this character, right? So at the most basic fundamental, Nilou is a DPS character. Now, she herself doesn't do a ton of DPS. I know Vaporized Nilou exists, but let's be honest here, right? Like, it's not the main point of Nilou. It's not her selling point. If you want to play Vaporized, there are a ton of other Vaporized characters. They're designed for Vaporized. Nilou was not particularly designed for Vaporized. Like saying, I'm going to pull Hu Tao so I can play physical Hu Tao. Right? Does it work? I mean, kind of. I can play physical Tartaglia as well. They're parts of these characters' kits. Yes, Nilou can be a Vaporized character, and I may be using physical DPS Hu Tao as a little too extreme of an example, but my point here is that just because a character can do something doesn't mean like that's the end goal of said character. Nilou is a Bloom character, a very special Bloom character. In fact, she is the most unique Bloom character, and her entire kit actually revolves around this whole thing called Bountiful Cores, which we'll just call it Super Bloom, right? These cores that explode extremely fast, and that's what makes her, in my opinion, a DPS character. Now, she might be an entire new category of DPS characters, I don't know, but that's what she is. And she suffers the same fate as all other DPS characters in Genshin Impact, is that as the meta shifts and changes, there are going to be situations where her DPS just isn't as easily accessible. For example, Nilou likes it when all the enemies are clumped up together trying to hit you, and then you can just easily plant a bunch of spuds on the ground, have them explode extremely quickly, dealing a bunch of damage, and everything just dies instantly. Ideal, right? She doesn't like fast moving targets. She doesn't like targets that dashes and teleports a lot. She doesn't like targets who necessarily are airborne, for example, right? So there are going to be situations, and plenty of them, where her usefulness just takes a nosedive, and it actually came to show during the current iteration of the Abyss. Currently, Nilou over the last 2 Abyss cycles has been one of the worst characters in terms of performance drops. Not the worst characters, it's just comparative to before this, she has a huge drop off in usage rate. It's more difficult to apply her strength to the current iteration of the Abyss, and a lot of DPS characters suffers from this. So get this, if the DPS character you have invested into is not like a super crazy boss focused killer, it's gonna be difficult for them to shine consistently. That's why characters like Hu Tao are very consistent, because HoYoverse is gonna do everything in their damnedest to make sure floor 12 is accessible to characters who have immense CC capabilities, right? They don't want floor 12 to be just a cakewalk of CCing them and then freezing them and then having ice shards raining on them, or just grouping them all together using Super Bloom and just clearing the whole chamber with your eyes closed. When Nilou first came out, they let you get a taste of what that kind of feels like, and does it feel good? And don't get me wrong, Nilou doesn't necessarily have to group enemies. For the most part, these big hulky boss monsters or giga monsters, they'll come to you by themselves, right? Case in point, the previous Abyss. Remember those 2 scorpions and the phoenix that just kind of jump all over you? Nilou loves that, right? She doesn't mind that at all. My point is, HoYoverse designs the Abyss in a way where that no DPS characters are really going to stand at the top forever. And if you look the top of all Abyss tier lists, it's always the support characters. Why is that? Because support characters are far and few in between. They don't come out as often as DPS characters. DPS characters are much easier for Hoyoverse to push and sell. So characters like Nilou will get packaged, branded very, very quickly, easily, and just pushed out the door and will perform extremely well. There are also DPSs that falls flat on their faces, kind of like, our Flame main. Right? You guys remember that? So it's not all the same, but DPS characters will fluctuate much more in the Abyss usage rate, right? That's because Hoyoverse designed it that way. They make it so you need like 5, 6 different DPSs to rotate through different iterations of the Abyss. Now, can you brute force your way with one DPS through all iterations of the Abyss? Of course you can, right? Xiao mains will tell you that. Ganyu mains will tell you that. Even during the toughest hours of their lives, they were still using Xiao to push through everything. But when it comes to characters like Nilou, where she herself isn't like in control of how she does damage, it's a weird situation, right? And Nilou will only get more and more powerful as more unique and versatile Hydro and Dendro units exist in the game. Now, Nilou herself doesn't necessarily need a crazy ton of investments. I mean, yes, she does, but arguably Nilou Super Bloom teams are currently the most free-to-play efficient teams in the game, right? And I'm saying that maybe as a blanket statement, but I'm pretty confident that you will not find another team as low investment, free to play accessible as a Nilou free to play Super Bloom team. That's just how it is. Now, here's the kicker, right? For people who are watching this video, it's like, oh, I'm thinking of going for Nilou, her weapon, and then maybe a C1 if I get lucky. Don't do that, right? When it comes to efficiency, it's only in Nilou is only at her most efficient point when you put a very little investment into her. Now, of course, you can pair her with Nahida, you can pair her with other stuff. I'm not saying never bring luxury into a Nilou team. I'm just saying that don't go excessive for Nilou. You don't need to go over the board for this character. You are getting the best yield for your investment into her when you can put less resources into her to get more out of her. Now that might sound counterintuitive. How do I get less? But there's a thing called diminishing returns, right? For example, if you pull Nilou and you get her to C1, C2 with her weapon, efficiency wise, primo to output efficiency, I'm saying, is not as efficient as if you just got a C0 copy of her, slapped like a free-to-play weapon onto her, and have her run amok with Super Bloom with whatever Dendro Hydro characters you have, right? It's really just that simple when it comes to Nilou. That's where her strength lies. So for people who are watching, if you have a copy of Nilou, rejoice, right? Yes, she will fluctuate. She will likely make a return during the 3.6 Abyss, and maybe she'll fall off again once her banner is gone. But I think Nilou is more akin to someone like Ayaka in terms of usage rate, right? You'll never see Ayaka like completely dominating in like 70-80% usage and even better than Raiden Shogun. No DPS is capable of doing that, but you'll constantly see her hovering around a very high usage percentage. A lot of people like to lean towards her. She's very consistent, the way to use her, play her, very streamlined, a very matured play style, and also there's a lot of synergies that you can pair, right? So with Nilou, all Dendro, all Hydro characters could be potential teammates, so she will have that level of versatility available to her throughout her entire Genshin existence. But she's just not a good character to over-invest into right now. She's by no means like Hu Tao, by no means like Ayaka. I know I mentioned she's like Ayaka, but in this sense, she's not like Ayaka. I've only referred to Ayaka in the sense of her usage rate, right? I think her performance consistency is similar to Ayaka, but when it comes to investing into her constellations, not so much. I would say Nilou right now is a great bare bone character in the sense that just get a C0 copy and that's it. Right. In that sense, I think she can even carry your account harder than Nahida can. Yes, you heard that right. Nilou at low investment comparative to Nahida can carry your team harder than Nahida can. Nahida will only benefit your account once you have a well-built account. Nahida is kind of like the multiplier, if that makes sense. Nilou is like the base. So Nahida will only start to have value if you have a strong enough base to multiply. Let's say Nahida multiplies it by, I don't know, 3. And your base is like 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Let's say Nilou has a base rating of 5. So by that default, Nilou already wins because Nahida multiplies what base you have by 3 and your base is 1, right? So you get 3. I hope this makes sense. Nahida benefits you if you already have a well-built account. Versatile, strong, you just need to raise that ceiling up. Nilou is like the whole package mixed together in one. You can slap the most free-to-play characters. You can like Barbara, whatever, like Kale, Dendro MC. There's your team, right? OP as hell, but not incredibly versatile for all things that Holyverse can throw at you. So all in all, that's all I wanted to say. People, look forward to the Nilou interview. I'm actually really excited. This member is a very, very long-lasting supporter of the channel, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say about his transition from Eula main into a Nilou main. What was the cause? I guess we'll find out. Till then, remember to stay safe. Peace, peace. Bye-bye.